On 24 September 2014, Mangalyaan or Mars Orbiter mission or MOM was inserted into Mars orbit by India, that too in first attempt, creating a world record. Media on both sides of Atlantic went into a frenzy from stereotypical to well-versed news. Everything was presented to the world, sending captivating waves across the globe. From gaining independence in 1947 to reaching Mars in 2014, it has been an incredible journey for India in space. In this episode, we take you through our journey from being snake charmers to astronauts, driving bullock carts to launching GSLV Mark III. So sit back, relax, and fasten your seatbelt as here we go. ISRO, or Indian Space Research Organisation, the principal agency for space work in India, was established on 15 August 1969. However, modern space research in India can be traced back to 1920s with prominent scientists like S.K. Mitra, C.V. Raman and Meghnad Saha. So as to C.V. Raman was presented Nobel Prize in Physics in 1930. Organized space research in India was later headed by Vikram Sarabhai and Homi Bhabha. Vikram Sarabhai became the first chairperson of INCOSPA, which would later be called ISRO. On 21st November 1963, the first rocket, Nike Apache, announcing the birth of our space program, took off from Tumba, a fishing hamlet near Trivandrum, and in the next few years, ISRO built India's first satellite, Aryabhatta, which was launched in 1975 with the help of Russia. Russians continue to support India, helping them to launch two more satellites, Bhaskar 1 and Bhaskar 2 in 1979 and 81 respectively. Meanwhile, Rohini series was launched with India Launch Vehicle from Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota, Andhra Pradesh, marking first launch from India's soil. On 2nd April 1984, Rakesh Sharma created history by becoming the first Indian to enter space when he flew aboard the Soviet rocket Soyuz T-11.
ऊपर से भारत कैसा दिखता है आपको?
जी मैं बगैर किसी झिझक के कह सकता हूँ कि सारे जहां से अच्छा.
He spent 7 days, 21 hours and 40 minutes in space conducting various experiments. Since then, ISRO has completed 101 spacecraft mission, 72 launch missions, 9 student satellites, 2 re-entry missions and 269 foreign satellites. Before we proceed, we need to address few burning whys. Why ISRO? Why ISRO so successful? Why is world talking about ISRO? Absence of bureaucratic hurdles and hierarchy has been a contributing factor as well. Moreover, the excellence of ISRO has been a talk of town in India, and strategies have been made to replicate this model into other government agencies. The pragmatic approach and result-oriented vision of ISRO has enabled their growth to increase tenfolds in just 4 decades. Compare the funding of other space agencies, you will get the whole picture. ISRO has an annual budget of $1.7 billion compared to China's and Russia's budget of $3 billion. ESA has a budget of $7 billion, while the mighty American space agency NASA has an annual budget of $18 billion. The cost-conscious approach has enabled ISRO engineers to find innovative solutions and not relying on money. The chief example being Mars Orbiter mission, which cost almost $74 million compared to a Hollywood sci-fi movie Gravity, which cost $100 million. Low-budget funding has not been a hindrance to the progression of ISRO, but it has acted as a blessing. ISRO has been able to reduce the cost of space excess so that even of the reusable space vehicles of SpaceX will cost more, and hence it is no surprise that many countries are using ISRO's workhorse PSLV to launch their satellites. PSLV is one of the satellite launching vehicles produced in India. We will elaborate this for you. During the 80s, India initiated its own launching vehicle program with SLV-3, APJ Abdul Kalam being its project director. The successful accumulation of the SLV showed the way to advanced launch vehicle projects such as ASLV, PSLV and GSLV. SLV and ASLV later retired from service. PSLV or Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle has been the workhorse that has been the versatile and reliable with 39 consecutive successful launches. During 1994 to 2017 period, it launched 48 Indian satellites and 209 foreign satellites. Besides these launches, it also successfully launched Chandrayaan mission to Moon in 2008 and Mars Orbiter spacecraft in 2013. PSLV C-37 scripted history by successfully launching a record 104 satellites on a single rocket on 15 Feb 2017. The rocket launched Catrosat 2D and 103 nanosatellites. To give you the feel of the massiveness of this project, the earlier record belonged to the Russian Space Agency that had launched 37 satellites in one go. Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle, abbreviated as GSLV, is an expendable launch system that enables India to launch its satellite into geostationary satellites. On 6 January 2014, GSLV D5 launched GSAT-14 into intended orbit. This marked the first successful flight using Indian-made cryogenic engine, making India the sixth country in the world to have the technology. GSLV Mark III is intended as a launch vehicle for the crewed missions under the Indian Human Space Flight Program. The GSLV-3 has the highest payload capacity that any other Indian launch vehicle and is deemed as the future of Indian space launches. Looking at the future, two new technological endeavors are very important. Reusable Launch Vehicle Technology Demonstrator (RLVTD) aims towards developing essential technologies for a fully reusable launch vehicles to enable low-cost access to space, while scramjet engines with their higher speed could mean more cheaper access to the outer space in future. Indian satellite systems can be broadly classified into four types: communication satellites, Earth observation satellites, navigation satellites, and others. Communication satellites. The Indian National Satellite System, also called INSAT and GSAT, acronym for Geostationary Satellites, form one of the largest domestic communication satellite systems in Asia-Pacific region with 15 operational satellites placed in geostationary orbit. Earth observation satellite. Starting with IRS-1A in 1988, ISRO has launched many operational remote sensing satellites. Today, India has one of the largest constellation of remote sensing satellites in operation. Currently, 13 operational satellites are in sun-synchronous orbit. Indian Remote Sensing Program completed its 25 years of successful operation on 17 March 2013. Satellite navigation. To meet the civil aviation requirements, ISRO is working jointly with Airport Authority of India in establishing the GPS-aided Geo-Augmented Navigation (GAGAN) system. To meet the user requirements of the positioning, navigation, and timing services based on the indigenous system, ISRO is establishing a regional satellite navigation system called the Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System or NAVIC. During the last decade and a half, ISRO has made remarkable progress in several areas: the Moon mission, Chandrayaan, recovery of an orbiting satellite, navigation satellite system, Mars mission, Mangalyaan, indigenous development of cryogenic propulsion, suborbital flight testing of ISRO's next generation launch vehicle, GSLV Mk-3, also known as LVM-3, and some baby steps towards manned missions. Chandrayaan-1 was India's first lunar probe. It was launched in October 2008 and operated until August 2009. The mission included a lunar orbiter and an impactor. On 14 November 2008, the Moon Impact Probe separated from Chandrayaan orbiter and struck the South Pole in a controlled manner, making India the fourth country to place its flag on the Moon. The probe hit near the crater Shackleton, ejecting subsurface soil that was analyzed for the presence of lunar water ice, and it recorded evidence of water in 650 mass spectra readings gathered during this time. Chandrayaan stopped sending radio signals on 28 August 2009, shortly after which ISRO officially declared the mission over. Chandrayaan operated for 312 days as opposed to intended 2 years, but the mission achieved 95% of its planned objectives. ISRO shot into international fame once again with the Mars Orbiter mission. The Mars Orbiter mission, MOM, or also called Mangalyaan, is a space probe orbiting Mars since 24 September 2014. It was launched on 5th November 2013. It is India's first interplanetary mission, and it made its fourth space agency to reach Mars and the first Asian nation to reach Mars orbit and the first nation in the world to do so in its first attempt. In 2014, China referred to India's successful Mars Orbiter mission as the pride of Asia. The Mars Orbiter mission team won US-based National Space Society's 2015 Space Pioneer Award in the Science and Engineering category. ISRO's plan to develop and launch a follow-up mission called the Mars Orbiter Mission 2 with a greater scientific payload to Mars in 2022-23. Moreover, Chandrayaan-2, India's second mission to the moon, is a totally indigenous mission comprising of an orbiter, lander, and rover. After reaching the 100-kilometer lunar orbit, the lander housing the rover will separate from the orbiter. After controlled descent, the lander will soft land on the lunar surface at a specific site and deploy a rover. Chandrayaan-2 is scheduled to launch in April 2019. Astrosat is India's first dedicated multi-wavelength space observatory. It was launched on PSLV XL on 28 September 2015. With the success of this satellite, ISRO has proposed to launch Astrosat 2 as a successor for the Astrosat, which nears its 5-year lifespan. ISRO is assessing mission to Venus, the Sun, and near-Earth objects such as asteroids and comets. Gaganyaan is an Indian crewed orbital spacecraft that will take humans into space. The spacecraft is being designed to carry 3 people, and crew module had its first uncrewed experimental flight on 18 December 2014. The plan is by 2022, when India completes 75 years of independence, or before that an Indian will go to the space with a tricolor in their hands. Starting with the primitive setup, ISRO has developed technologies which are today considered state-of-the-art, and it continues to harness space technology for national development and as we experience our space program and hope that it continues to script history and make us proud. Don't forget to subscribe, stay tuned, stay fascinated. Election in India is coming up next.